War has always been a place of pain, sacrifice, and unthinkable brutality. But for the soldiers of the Roman legions, the battlefield was only the beginning of their suffering. What happened after the clash of steel often determined whether a man lived or died. There were no ambulances, no modern surgical tools, no sterile rooms, only dust, blood, fear, and the fragile hope that someone would find you before it was too late. When a Roman battle ended and the noise faded into an eerie silence, the most crucial stage began. In the Roman army, there were no specialized rescue units. The wounded were carried not by medics or emergency teams, but by their fellow soldiers, men who moments earlier had been fighting for their own lives. These comrades, exhausted, injured, and shaken, took on the responsibility of carrying the fallen from the field. They used whatever they had, cloaks, spears, or their own shields as makeshift stretchers, heavy, unstable, and painful, but they saved thousands of lives. Roman commanders issued a simple but harsh rule: save those still breathing. Those who did not move were often left behind. It was a cruel practicality, but in an age without antibiotics or true anesthesia, time meant everything. Once the wounded were brought to safety, the next stage began: treatment. And surprisingly, the Romans were far more advanced than many people think. Temporary hospitals, known as valetudinaria, were set up near the battlefield. These weren't temples or mystical healing huts like in other civilizations. They were early military clinics staffed by medici, trained field doctors who understood anatomy, bleeding control, and even basic forms of antiseptics. They used vinegar, wine, and boiling water to clean wounds. Primitive, but astonishingly effective for their time. Their surgical tools were equally impressive: bronze scalpels, forceps for removing arrowheads, cauterizing irons, and long needles made from bone or metal. These weren't crude improvisations. They were crafted with precision, stored in leather kits, and carried with the legions during every campaign. Roman medicine wasn't magic. It was discipline, skill, and the result of centuries of accumulated knowledge. But even with skill and courage, saving a wounded soldier in ancient Rome was a race against infection, shock, and time. And what happened next reveals the brilliance and humanity of Roman military organization. Inside the valetudinarium, the wounded were treated based on the severity of their injuries. The tents were divided into sections: minor wounds, broken limbs, severe trauma, and the dreaded amputation ward. Doctors worked through the night under the warm glow of oil lamps, performing procedures that would terrify a modern patient. They stitched deep cuts with fibers from animals, set fractures with wooden splints, and used herbal mixtures like chamomile, sage, and opium to reduce pain and swelling. Without understanding bacteria, Roman physicians relied on intuition and tradition. They washed instruments, changed linens, and cleaned wounds more often than most ancient peoples. Thanks to these habits, the Roman survival rate was significantly higher than their enemies. But life inside a field hospital was far from peaceful. Dirt floors, overcrowded tents, and the stifling heat created perfect conditions for infection. Many soldiers survived the battlefield only to fall victim to fever, gangrene, or septic shock. Roman medics fought a battle of their own every single day, constantly searching for better ways to treat wounds. They experimented with ointments, herbs, and cauterization techniques, painful but sometimes life-saving. Yet the Roman system was not only about surgery, it included a surprisingly advanced rehabilitation process. The wounded were fed warm broths fruits, and diluted wine to regain strength. They received daily care, emotional support, and even psychological reassurance long before mental health had a name. Officers were instructed to speak to wounded soldiers, encourage them, and share news from the front lines. Morale was considered part of the medicine. But the Romans also understood logistics. In massive battles, hundreds could be wounded. Capsari, medical assistants, trained specifically to transport the injured safely. Even war chariots could be converted into emergency transport when needed. Everything, from splints to stretchers, was designed for speed. Because saving a soldier meant saving years of training and experience. And for those who survived the ordeal, the empire offered something rare in the ancient world: support. A wounded soldier didn't simply return home forgotten. Many were granted land, pensions, or administrative positions. Some continued serving as instructors, teaching new recruits battle skills and discipline. A soldier's suffering was not the end of his usefulness. It was the beginning of a new role in Rome's vast machine. But what happened to those whose bodies were permanently changed by war? The amputees, the blinded, the severely mutilated. Here, Rome again stood apart from most ancient civilizations. Instead of abandonment, many veterans were given prosthetics: wooden legs, metal arms, leather braces, crude by modern standards, but extremely advanced for the time. These devices allowed wounded soldiers to walk, work, and reintegrate into society. Many severe cases were transferred to veteran colonies, new Roman settlements in conquered territories. There, wounded soldiers received land and a chance to rebuild their lives. These veterans became guardians of Roman culture, symbols of loyalty, and living proof that the state cared for its defenders. Their presence encouraged young men to enlist, confident that Rome would not abandon them. Psychological trauma, though unnamed, was also understood intuitively. Veterans were encouraged to socialize, attend religious ceremonies, and participate in public life. Their stories, shared with comrades, served as therapy long before the concept existed. Religion, family, and community became powerful healing tools. And beyond the battlefield, Roman military medicine shaped the future. Doctors who survived campaigns carried their knowledge into civilian life. They opened clinics, trained students, and wrote treatises that influenced medicine for centuries. Their experience, tested under chaos, blood, and urgency, became the foundation of Western medical practice. In the end, Rome's true genius wasn't just in conquering lands. It was in understanding people, their fears, their pain, their value. A wounded soldier was not a burden, but an investment. Saving a single man meant preserving a lifetime of skill, courage, and loyalty. This system, harsh yet deeply practical, became one of the pillars of Rome's military power. It kept legions strong, veterans loyal, and society stable. And even today, many principles used by modern armies, evacuation, field hospitals, triage, rehabilitation, can be traced back to Rome. So, after everything we've seen, one question remains. Which Roman medical innovation do you think changed history the most? Comment your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe for more untold stories of the ancient world. But perhaps the most astonishing part of this story is not the tools, the hospitals, or even the organization. It's the philosophy behind Rome's approach to the wounded. In a world where life was cheap and war was constant, the Romans chose a different path. They understood something that many ancient nations never realized. An army is only as strong as the men who survive its battles. That belief shaped everything, Behind every rescued soldier was an entire system working tirelessly. Commanders coordinating evacuation routes, medics perfecting techniques through brutal experience, and fellow legionaries risking their own lives to carry the wounded to safety. This wasn't simply discipline. It was a culture of loyalty. Every soldier knew that if he fell, someone would come for him. And that knowledge alone made the Roman legions fight harder, march farther, and endure suffering that would break other armies. Roman military medicine was not only a practical necessity, it was a psychological weapon. A legionary who believed he would survive a wound fought with a courage that felt almost supernatural. He charged into chaos, knowing Rome stood behind him. Rome would treat him, heal him, and if necessary, honor him after death. It was a silent contract, one written not on paper, but on trust, and this trust reshaped the empire. As veterans healed and returned home, they carried with them not just scars, but stories. Stories of comradeship under fire, of doctors who performed miracles with bronze tools, of nights spent in tents where strangers became brothers. These stories spread through villages, towns, and marketplaces, building a mythos around the Roman army. Young men grew up dreaming of wearing the red cloak, not only because of glory, but because they knew Rome protected those who served. This cycle, service, injury, healing, reintegration, became the invisible engine of the empire. It created a steady flow of experienced fighters, loyal veterans, and grateful citizens. It also created a network of military doctors whose innovations pushed the boundaries of ancient science. When these doctors retired or settled in the provinces, they opened clinics, taught apprentices, and carried battlefield knowledge into everyday medicine. In a sense, the wounds of soldiers helped heal the empire itself. Yet, there was a darker side to this brilliance. For all its progress, Roman medical care was still a gamble. Behind the curtain of heroism were men who never recovered, veterans haunted by trauma, families who never saw their sons return. The empire thrived, but at a heavy cost paid in human lives. Each medical advancement was born from suffering, trial, and error. And the silent price of progress was written in blood. Even so, what the Romans achieved on the battlefield remains extraordinary. Their methods formed the blueprint for modern military medicine: triage, evacuation, antiseptics, surgery, rehab, and veteran support. These ideas, refined, expanded, and modernized, still save lives today. When we look at Roman battlefields now, quiet and overgrown, it is easy to see only the ruins of war. But beneath the silence lies something else, a legacy of resilience, innovation, and compassion born in the harshest moments of human history. The story of Roman battlefield medicine is not just a tale of survival. It is a reminder that even in an age defined by violence, people still found ways to protect one another. That even in the darkest times, humanity created systems to save lives, not just take them. And that behind every empire, every victory, and every legend stand the wounded men who lived to tell the story. So now that we've pulled back the curtain on Rome's hidden medical world, the question becomes, if you could bring back just one ancient Roman medical practice to improve life today, which one would it be, and why? Share your thoughts and make sure to stay with us as we uncover the secrets of the ancient world, one forgotten truth at a time.